Find a comfortable position. Let your body settle without hurry. There is nothing you need to hold upright now. Nothing you need to keep carrying from one part of the afternoon into the next. Today's story is called A 20-Minute Nap in a Quiet Conservatory Chair. The conservatory has already been holding the afternoon for some time. By the time you enter it, the brightness outside has softened as it passes through glass and frame and the long, pale folds of the curtains, so that nothing in the room feels harsh or exposed. Light still fills the space, but only after it has been gentled. It lies across the floor in broad, faded panels. It gathers at the arms of the chair. It settles on the nearest leaves and then thins again as the angle changes. The whole room feels warm without being hot, bright without being sharp, as though the day has already agreed to lower its voice here. The chair is waiting close to the windowed wall, turned just enough that the body can rest in it without facing straight outward into the garden or straight inward toward the room. That slight turning matters. It means the chair is not arranged for watching, but for remaining. Its cushion has depth enough to receive the body rather than merely hold it above the floor. The back rises high enough to take the shoulders once they stop keeping themselves, so carefully arranged. One arm curves nearer than the other, its surface warmer where the filtered sun has lain on it longest, and dimmer where the room's softer shade has kept close. You come to it and lower yourself without needing to negotiate much with the shape of it. The cushion gives first beneath the backs of the legs, then more fully beneath the hips as your weight settles into the place it has already learned to soften. One hand comes naturally to the armrest. The other may rest in your lap, or against the opposite side of the chair, or briefly at the seat beside you as the body understands the depth and steadiness of the support. Nothing about the chair asks to be tested twice. It receives you immediately, and in that first receiving there is already a kind of permission. The upholstery beneath your hand is warm in some places and cooler in others. Where the filtered light has been resting over the fabric, the surface holds a little of the afternoon in it still. Where the chair curves inward beneath the arm or along the side, the material has kept more of the room's own temperate stillness. The fabric is neither glossy nor rough. It has the quiet honesty of something chosen to be lived with. It has softened along the edge where hands have often come to rest. Near one seam, the stuffing beneath has compressed a little more than elsewhere, not through damage, but through repeated afternoons of use. The chair tells the truth about itself quickly. That is part of what makes it trustworthy. The glass around the conservatory holds the day at one remove. Beyond it, the garden continues in summer color and brightness, but only after passing through panes and frame shadows and curtain folds. The result is distance made gentler. Nothing outside arrives in its full outdoor force. The greens are still green, but softer. A path beyond the panes may show pale against deeper leaf or lawn, but only in pieces. The low wall at the garden edge, if there is one, catches the afternoon in a broad, faded stretch, and then gives it back. A climbing branch beyond the glass moves now, and when it does, it alters the brightness in the room more than it asks to be followed for itself. The curtain nearest you hangs in long, quiet folds. Its outer edge keeps a little more light than the rest. The inner folds deepen into softer cream or pale linen shadow. They do not move unless the air changes, and the air here barely changes at all. The conservatory is closed enough to hold the warmth of the day, yet not so sealed that the space feels heavy. It has the held lightness of a room made mostly of windows and summer brightness, but softened by fabric and wicker and wood, and the stillness of objects that no longer need to be used. The chair does more of the work almost at once. Your back leans into it a little more fully. The shoulders lower. One knee eases outward or inward depending on what feels simplest. The hand on the armrest stops belonging to action and begins belonging to rest. That transition happens before you think much about it. The body has been given enough support that it no longer needs to hold itself in the old way. That is the first real turning of the story, not the room, not the garden beyond the glass. The body beginning to understand that it can remain here without effort. The conservatory around you does not need to be known all at once. A floor of pale boards or tile lies beneath the chair. A small table may stand within easy reach at one side. Perhaps a closed book rests there, or an empty cup, or nothing at all. One or two nearby plants keep their leaves in the room's warmer light, but even they feel less like decoration than quiet presences that have settled into their place and stayed there. The chair matters more than any of them. The glass matters more. The filtered afternoon matters more. Everything else belongs only insofar as it helps the body remain. The first warmth reaches you in gentle sections, across one forearm where the filtered light falls, at one knee, along the side of the cushion nearest the windows where the fabric has held the day more strongly. The other side of the body remains less warmed, turned inward toward the deeper stillness of the chair and room. Between those two, the body finds its own middle state, not in full sunlight, not in full shade, only supported, warmed at the edges, and given no reason to move again soon. You settle another little degree. The cushion beneath you takes more weight through the hips and lower back. The chair back receives more of the shoulders. The head begins, very lightly, to understand where it might land more fully later, though it does not need to do that yet. Outside the panes, the garden remains visible enough to reassure, but not enough to pull you outward. A patch of pale path, a softened hedge line, perhaps the rounded shape of a pot or bench further off. These things stay behind the glass where they belong. If a leaf moves across one pane, the movement becomes part of the room as altered light rather than as something separate demanding attention. The conservatory has already translated the outside into the kind of distance a resting body can bear easily. A breath passes, then another. The chair receives them both. The fabric at your back does not shift much, only enough to remind you that it is there and taking some of the work. The arm beneath your hand stays warm where the light reaches and cooler where the hand itself blocks it. The room does not need to become quieter than it is. It already holds the kind of stillness that belongs to afternoon spaces designed, knowingly or not, for drowsing. The glass throws faint frame shadows across part of the floor and chair. At first, those lines are easy enough to notice. One falls across the rug or boards near your feet. Another crosses the lower arm of the chair. A paler one lies over your lap or sleeve, thin enough that it is more suggestion than stripe. These divisions matter because they break the brightness into gentler pieces. Nothing here is wide open. Even the light has been given a structure to rest within. The body begins to trust that structure. Your shoulders do not need to remain lifted against openness. The chair has already taken that burden. Your eyes do not need to travel around the room measuring it. The room has already reduced itself to chair, nearby glass, softened curtain, and the faint beyond layer of the garden. The larger day remains where it is, on the far side of panes and folds, and that is enough. You rest more fully into the conservatory chair. The deeper you settle, the more the room seems to gather itself around this one posture. The chair is no longer simply placed near the glass. It has become the center from which the conservatory now makes sense. The floor matters because it lies beneath the chair. The table matters because it remains within reach from the chair. The curtains matter because they soften the light that falls over the chair. Even the garden matters differently now, only as the outer layer held beyond the chair's warm, small field of support. The cushion tells the truth about itself the longer you remain. It is softer where the body leans most often. Near the front edge, the fabric keeps more of its original firmness. One side of the seat has settled more than the other, perhaps because people who use this chair tend to favor the same angle of the sun, the same turn toward or away from the window. If your hand drifts across the upholstery, it can feel these differences without needing to inspect them. A seam lies flatter under one fingertip. The padding gives a fraction more under the hip than under the thigh. The chair has learned the shape of afternoons like this. That learning is part of the comfort, not luxurious softness, not excess, only support that has become honest through use. The chair back receives your shoulders more completely now. At first, it held them. Now it begins to carry them. That is a different thing. The line from neck to shoulder softens. The spine keeps less of its earlier inward alertness. The upper arms rest more naturally by the sides. If your head turns a little toward the back cushion, it does, so not because you are seeking some perfect arrangement, but because the chair has made enough of its support available that the body can begin accepting it without thinking. Filtered brightness continues to rest through the room. The curtain nearest the glass brightens and dims by the smallest degrees as something beyond the pane shifts. Perhaps a branch outside, perhaps the lowering angle of the afternoon itself. When that happens, the change reaches you first as altered light on the arm or lap, not as a scene beyond the glass. The pane divisions matter more than the garden. The frame shadow across your knees matters more than the tree or path that helped produce it. That is how the conservatory begins to keep the outside in the proper relation to the body, distant enough to be harmless, near enough to reassure. The air in the room is still, but not lifeless. Warmth rests in it. A held daytime warmth, not sharp, not close, only settled. It lingers in the wicker or timber of the chair where the sun has reached. It lies across the upper fabric of the cushion. It stays at the edge of the curtain folds and on the boards nearest the glass. Further in, toward the back of the room, the warmth softens into something more even. The conservatory contains these gradations well. Bright edge, gentle middle, quieter inward shade. The body no longer has to account for any of them separately. It only has to remain within them. One hand may slip lower into your lap. The other may continue resting on the arm. However they settle, they become quieter than before. The fingers uncurl. The wrists loosen. The hands stop belonging to the next thing. The room does not need to offer any more than that. Perhaps there is a folded throw draped over part of the chair or across a nearby stool. Perhaps a side table carries a closed book with one pale band of light across its cover. Perhaps a plant beside the pane keeps one glossy leaf half in brightness, half in frame shadow. None of these things asks to be described in full. They are useful only as part of the same small resting field around the chair. To name them too strongly would be to wake them further than they need to be. The chair is enough. The glass is enough. The curtain is enough. The body, now more fully received, asks for very little beyond their continued presence. You settle more deeply still. A little more weight goes through the hips, a little more through the back. The shoulder nearest the chair back gives another small degree. The head begins to lean not by decision, but by understanding. The chair has made clear where it would hold you if you allowed it to. That knowledge is enough for now. Outside, brightness continues beyond the panes, but it has lost almost all claim on the body's attention. There may be leaves out there, and one of them may pass a softened, moving shadow across the floor near your feet. There may be flowers, though they remain no more than color at this distance. There may be a low wall, a bench, a section of terrace, but all of them have been reduced by glass, curtain, and stillness to background. The body belongs to the chair now, not to anything beyond it. The frame shadow across your lap grows softer, or perhaps you only notice it less. Either way, its work has already been done. The same is true of the chair's arm beneath your hand. Earlier, it was a contact point. Now it is simply the place where your hand rests. The upholstery or wicker no longer needs attention to remain reassuring. It has become part of the body's immediate environment, the way a pillow becomes part of the head's environment once it has fully settled into it. The room begins to narrow around the chair, not physically, only in the field of attention. The farther panes matter less. The nearest one matters only insofar as it holds the light at the right distance. The side table matters only if it sits within easy reach of the armrest. The folded throw matters only because it remains near the chair if ever needed later. The floor is no longer the room's ground. The chair is. This is the point where the conservatory stops being a space you are sitting in and becomes a space measured by the chair's reach. Armrest, lap, cushion, back support, a table within easy distance, glass beyond, curtain folds. After that, very little. The body responds to that narrowing by giving up more of what it no longer needs. Your shoulders lower. The neck stops holding the head so carefully away from support. The legs grow heavier, not by any dramatic change, only by losing their readiness to move. The hands do not shift. It is not sleep yet, only a more complete form of remaining. The filtered daylight has become quieter than the room. That sounds impossible, but here it is true. It no longer brightens the space so much as it rests in it. A pale panel across the floor, a held brightness in the curtain, a warmth at one edge of the chair. The day continues on the far side of the panes, but inside the conservatory it has already been slowed and softened until it serves the room rather than claiming it. The chair begins doing almost all the work now. It supports the curve of your back. It receives the weight of your hips and thighs. It keeps one arm where it can rest without effort. It offers the head somewhere nearer to lean. The upholstery, warmed in places and dimmer in others, has become the true landscape of the body. The garden no longer matters in that way. The conservatory itself no longer matters broadly. What matters is this chair and the few quiet things nearest to it. A small table may hold an empty cup or a book left closed. If so, it remains outside the active field now. A plant near the panes may keep one leaf in brighter light than another. If so, that difference remains too slight to matter. The room is not being erased. It is being reduced to sufficiency. That is what makes the nap deepen. The side of your head leans more fully now, perhaps into the cushion at the chair back, perhaps against one side of the wing or padded edge, perhaps only a little toward it. The neck eases, the jaw loosens. The chair has become sufficiently trustworthy that the head no longer needs to maintain its earlier line. The body understands something simple. It can stop holding itself up. A breath passes more slowly, then another. The room receives both in the same way it receives light, gently, without making a show of it. If you were still fully awake in the old way, the glass might ask you to look outward. The plants might ask for notice. The table might suggest reaching for the book, but none of that seems necessary now. The chair has reduced the whole conservatory into the few things that still matter: support beneath and behind, softened brightness around, distance beyond glass, no further task. This is where the room begins to feel measured not by size, but by nearness. The arm beneath your hand, the cushion beneath the hips, the back support at the shoulders, the pane beyond the curtain, the table or throw within reach. After that, less and less. The filtered light now reaches you mostly as warmth and pale tone, a warmer strip over one sleeve, a softened patch across the lap, a fading brightness at the edge of the hand. The frame shadows themselves no longer need to be seen distinctly. Their presence remains, but only as the reason the light has become this gentle and divided. The structure of the conservatory has already done its work. The body no longer needs to keep registering it. What remains from outside is no more than a brightness beyond glass. That brightness may still shift as leaves move or the sun lowers, but it no longer arrives as information. It arrives only as atmosphere, as a gentler outer layer behind the room's stillness. You do not need to know what kind of leaf moved or which branch crossed the pane. It is enough that the day continues there while you remain here. The chair takes more of your weight. This is not sudden. It happens through small releases. The hips settle, the lower back gives. The shoulders stop carrying their own shape. The head leans more fully. The hands remain. The body is no longer arranged for wakefulness. It has entered the quieter state in which support, rather than posture, determines the whole experience of the room. The upholstery beneath you has become warmer in the places where stillness has been longest. The cushion at the back keeps more of your own heat now. The armrest under the hand feels less distinct because the hand no longer presses or explores it. Even the fabric at the lap has begun to share something with the body's temperature rather than merely lying beneath it. Those small held exchanges matter. They help turn a chair into a resting place. The curtain beyond the chair has become almost purely a filter now. It no longer reads as fabric in the active sense. It is only the softened edge through which the afternoon enters. The panes behind it no longer read as windows so much as the outer limit of the room's brightness. What lies beyond those panes can continue without witness. The body has almost fully given up any need to divide itself between here and there. A little more stillness gathers at the shoulders, at the base of the skull, along the forearms, at the knees where the filtered warmth remains. The chair has already proved itself. The room no longer needs to do anything further than remain. A long, slow breath passes, then another. There is less and less to notice. Not because the room is empty, because it has become sufficient. The chair beneath you, the support behind the shoulders, the dimmed daylight through the glass, the warm held air, the quiet weight of your hands, the body no longer holding itself in the old way. That is enough for the drift to deepen. The conservatory grows quieter than the day outside now, not because nothing moves beyond the panes, only because the body no longer belongs to that movement. The brightness beyond the glass continues in pale summer tones, but it has become too distant to matter except as reassurance. The true environment is here: chair, cushion, arm, curtain, pane, still air, the body growing heavier within all of it. Your head rests more fully now. The chair takes it. The neck stops correcting. The face turns slightly into support. This is not yet sleep, but it is close enough that wakefulness has become very light. The body no longer listens for what comes next. It rests in what remains. The nearest things begin to lose even their names. The chair is no longer a conservatory chair in any active sense. It is simply the support beneath and around you. The curtain is no longer a curtain. It is simply the softened source of brightness. The glass is no longer a wall of panes. It is simply the boundary beyond which the day continues. The armrest is no longer a separate object. It is simply where your hand rests. This is what final narrowing feels like, not emptiness, only the removal of anything that no longer needs to stand apart. A breath passes, then another. The body has become very quiet inside the support that holds it. Shoulders lowered, hips settled, head leaned fully, hands at rest, brightness dimmed through fabric and glass. No more need to look outward, no more need to rearrange anything. The conservatory no longer asks to be seen. The chair no longer asks to be described. They have already done their work. The day outside continues without asking anything. The room inside continues without asking anything. The chair keeps receiving what remains of wakefulness until even that begins to thin. What remains nearest now is smaller than the whole room. The cushion beneath the body. the support at the back of the head, the held warmth across lap and sleeve, the faded brightness beyond the curtain, the quiet weight of your hands, the slow rise and fall of breath, and after that, less and less to notice. The chair receives what is left. The curtain keeps the day gentle, the glass keeps the distance, the room keeps the stillness. A breath passes, then another. Nothing interrupts, nothing enters. Nothing asks for one more shift, one more glance beyond the panes, one more thought before drifting. Only the chair beneath you, the softened afternoon through glass, the small held warmth of the room, the body no longer carrying itself alone. Then even those distinctions begin to soften, until there is almost nothing left but the feeling of being quietly held in one bright, sheltered afternoon place.